All right, good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased that today the hall is quite full. And at the same time, I'm very pleased that besides the topic, which is very appealing, I have a very interesting and fantastic, I would say, panelists with hands-on expertise and with their unbelievable experience when it comes to tourism development and hospitality in general. So as Amina was mentioning, needless to say, we are blessed, I would say, when it comes to the region, from different kind of natural beauties, cultural heritage, fantastic historical sites, landscape, which is unbelievable, breathtaking. So we have everything that any country in the world would be very much willing to have. Now, the question that we're going to be trying to address today is, on the other side, we see that there is a positive momentum when it comes to the region in terms of investments. And there's a bit of shifting when it comes to capital deployment. You have seen already most reputable international hotel brands are already in the region. And we have at the same time governments trying to put on the top agenda when it comes to hospitality tourism investment and infrastructure investments. On the other side, we are trying to see for very creative instruments between what we call public-private partnerships so that we can make them rolling in terms of financial investments at place. And at the same time, what remains, not a question mark, but I think a challenge is how we basically bridge the gap between the existing beautiful, natural, whatever assets we have in tourism and how that actually is materialized as we see all these trends coming. Are we really capitalizing? Are we really making use of all our resources? Or sometimes we are kind of missing opportunities, or perhaps we are overdoing when it comes to a particular real estate construction in the region. So this was just a bit of background before we start the discussion. And then obviously the presentation was already done. So I'll start maybe from Miloš. Miloš, you have undisputably a fantastic financial background, but not only that, you are very active in different other sectors, including hospitality, investment, media, and legal sectors with the bank as well. So with this, I would say, great experience and perspective, what do you think in terms of Montenegro in this case? What is the key, I would say, element that we can basically not just see numbers coming, because this is already happening. I'm coming from a country, Albania, which has been almost more than double the number of visitors in the last 5 years. So the numbers are there, I guess, for the whole region. What is the key issue is how to transfer from volume to value. And of course, I think Montenegro has some success stories, as we are part of it today in Bordo Montenegro, but I think you can still have your insights, which are very valuable for our discussion. So what would be the single most important structural change that actually we can have that transition, as I was mentioning, from numbers to value, from seasonality to year-round tourism, from perhaps local investments which have a little bit of limitation when it comes to creating large-scale investment in phases, to international investors which see a little bit of long-term perspective. So do you think there are some magic pills that we can actually do things even better than they are?
If you know where we can buy that pill, I would be very happy.
It's a bit expensive, but...
So there is no magic pill, I believe, but we had one very good panel yesterday, and the magic word is vision. We lack a vision of Montenegro and what kind of tourism we want. So we can't have both in volume and many visitors and to save our nature and coastline and everything inside. There is no such a product. So I can talk about my vision of Montenegro. I strongly believe that Montenegro needs elite tourism. Why I think this is, I'm starting from the resources that Montenegro has. And in that sense, I'm starting from the ones that we cannot build We can build roads, we can make new airports, we can expand airports that we have, we can improve accessibility, but the number of beaches we have, we cannot increase. If we want to save the nature, of course. Yesterday we heard from Mr. Alabar that Montenegro has more coastline than Dubai. True, but if we measure the beaches itself, that would not be the case. So with so small number of beaches means that we can accept a limited number of guests. In order to reach the numbers we want, these guests has to be high-level guests that are spending a lot. What this triggers next is that we need a product for them. What are the products for these guests? One of the products we are sitting here is Porto Montenegro. The next one is Luštica Bay. So we have a Porto Novi. These kind of projects are attracting this type of guests. So I strongly believe that we need to first to create that kind of vision, then to make a strategy how to reach that vision. In opposite to that, what we heard as a comments, especially in the media, that are giving space to a few individuals that are pretending to represent the whole people of Montenegro, which is another strange story. What they are saying that they are protecting the nature from big developers, like recent story with Mr. Alabar and his idea to invest here. I would ask one question there. Does Porto Novi, Luštica, Porto Montenegro, or our project in Sveti Stefan, does these projects ruin the nature or devastated the space that Montenegro has? Or it was individual projects in Budva, for example. So this kind of narrative in the media is very wrong, and I hope it will change in the future. So we need a vision, then a strategy how to make Montenegro elite tourism destination.
Thanks. Very interesting thoughts. I mean, obviously, you were just mentioning that it's not easy to actually create that field, that, you know, that atmosphere that everybody is happy on large-scale investments. And I think that's why I want to pass the word now to Slavica, considering that Luštica Bay, I think it's one of its kind in the region. And obviously, if you consider large-scale mixed-use resorts, what I think is the most difficult part is how you make together all different parts with local community, investor, governments, municipalities, and consider that it's a long scale and long time investment. So, Slavica, in your case, what do you think would have been the key lessons that, let's say, Luštica has been somehow successfully delivered in due time and with everybody keeping happy? Because as I understand, even in Albania now, we have a lot of new projects. We're moving from standalone hotels to mixed-use resorts. But the key question, whenever you start something for that kind of, you know, 1 billion plus investment, basically you have to start from local community, I guess, because that creates a little bit of big impact. It might be positive, it might be, you know, environmentalists might say different things, so I think it's right what Miloš was saying. So how we find that balance, and in your case, you already have a product which is, let's say, world known now. So how do you see that experience, and what would be the lessons that actually you could advise the other investors which might go that direction?
Thank you for that question. I actually had the opportunity to work across 3 big projects that are in this region known as a Golden Triangle, one of which is my passion project, Luštica Bay, that I'm in a second mandate now with. And I've been involved from very first day, pretty much when we started building in the first phase. First 10 buildings were not even delivered, to today when a vision is becoming something. And I remember very clearly when I had my first interview for this job in 2012, when everything was starting, rarely did anyone believe. You know, it is the same with Porto Montenegro, it is the same with Porto Novi. There's always been questioning as to, is this the best, what can happen in this space? And I think, you know, both sides are important when it comes to justifying this. One is having a strong vision is what really is the key to everything in these kind of developments. Because if you drift too much and if you wander around what you will be as anything else and as any destination, you are not going to get there. But beyond that, executing that and making sure that it happens the way that it's responsible to the space and place, that is responsible to the community that is there, that is responsible to the promise that you gave, is something that gives you or solidifies your reputation. That's why not many keep it, unfortunately, in the process. And that's why it's easily recognized when the reputation gets kept. I think one of the big things that Orascom Development as a master developer behind successful models of integrated cities has done with Luštica Bay is recognize the potential of the place and manage it in a way that corresponds to its nature, not trying to over-dimension it, not trying to impose much on the space itself, but to actually get the maximum value of that space for its future life. And in Luštica Bay's case, so that everyone knows, is not many people actually know what Luštica Bay really means. It's not a resort. It's a development of a master planned integrated town. And when we said town some 15 years ago, many people have said, town is ambitious, town is big. But we stayed true to that vision, and whoever comes to Luštica Bay today knows that we have developed a community that is already very much self-sustained, and it wasn't an easy business. There were doubts along the way, there were decisions to be made along the way, there were things that we needed to stay true to. But I think the responsibility of marketing and responsibility of development lies in the fact that things that are promised need to be kept. The path that was taken needs to be delivered and followed. And marketing, in my case, as a marketer, I need to say, needs to stay true to the promise, not to overpromise, not to put words on a paper just to be there, but to actually communicate the truth behind it. Sometimes there's challenge, sometimes there's truth. That is really a reality, and we need to say that. I think that's the key. The lesson is stay true to the vision, execute the way that it's fitting to the space that you're taking and that you're taking responsibility for, and as a developer, that is a recipe for success.
Thank you. So, I mean, I like what you said, the town vision, because what's happening is sometimes we have development somehow detached from the local context. So once you create a new destination, or large-scale mixed-use resort in particular, eventually you need to be aware that that has to be connected with other attractions around, with kind of other regional communities that have interest in different sectors. So it's not a standalone project, and that's why it's successful year-round. I mean, this is, I think, I've seen myself firsthand. I've been lastly, just in February, and I really was astonished by the way that how everything was functioning. You feel yourself as if you are in a different town, somewhere in Italy or wherever. So switching now to a little bit of different kind of perspective, or maybe different story from Snežana. So you have an interesting background, more or less like mine, working both previously with the government in the tourism board, and at the same time with one of the other big projects that is, let's say, in developing phase in Montenegro, in Majlind big project, in particular in Bar. So you have seen this at least in a couple of years, if not more than a decade, evolving back and forth, different, discussions, issues, bureaucracies, sometimes green lights, sometimes, you are kind of hitting the wall. So what is your overall perspective about how we should, basically, this region, including Montenegro for sure has been even more successful than other countries, but let's say, what would be the main ingredients for a fantastic recipe to attract international investors, which obviously they have that kind of mindset as Slavica was saying, but at the same time understanding local context, which is obviously, we can't just escape and we believe that we're in the middle of, let's say, somewhere in the Western or Scandinavian countries. We have our local particularities as a Balkan. So how you basically have tried to, balance your experience in government and understanding how the government functions together with the interest of financial interest of international investors, which actually would like to get things rolling in due time.
Yes. Well, one thing that teaches you developing such a large scale project in Montenegro is patience, definitely. But also when you have patience for all the, let's say, development issues that one government, it's a very different time now in 2026 than the 10 years before. So the government of Montenegro was trying to find the best ways to support investors. Sometimes those solutions were good, sometimes not so successful, but all this way we are with them. So we are always trying to get a dialogue, to find a good solutions. That's why we are still here. And when you support someone when they are good and when they are not so good, that means that you are in love. So we are in love with this project, we are in love with our bay, and we want to develop it. But also, what is very important, and that is something that we must commit together, and that's what Ms. Biljana underlined yesterday at the opening, is trust. And when you ask yourself, why do you trust someone? It is because this person is consistent, it is always there for you, and you can have a dialogue. So we were always trying to have a dialogue and to find the best solution. Sometimes the very position of the government that also of our project was very challenging, as sometimes solutions are not easy or solutions are not easy to be found, but we are still here, and I hope that we will develop this project soon. What Miloš said, and also these are the three words that are spinning around all this summit. One is trust. The second one is vision. So Montenegro government and also the political players must have a consensus about vision. And when someone is talking about political stability is not one party 30 years or 20 years or next 10 years. Political stability means that democratic institutions are working their job. So investors should not have any issues with the government change or the law changes when the government changes. And what keeps all this together, all the political changes together, is vision. Vision must be consensus of all the political parties. And another thing, this vision must be communicated with the citizens of Montenegro, because sometimes the government gets their own vision. They are super happy, they have great vision, but this is not communicated with the citizens of Montenegro. And then they don't support projects. We had issues with Taman, and I'm so happy to hear that Taman will open. This communication that happened in Sveti Stefan is really what happened. The vision of the project was not well communicated with the ecosystem around it. So it's very important. We are all involved in the project development. Also, what I would like to see more, and I hope that we will get a dialogue development, and I'm happy to hear that the arbitration center will be open, is we need a place for a dialogue between investors and the government. And working in the government offices, I know that the government has great people, and the personal choices must be made very good in order to have a real communication. So we are here, and I hope that we will develop the project in the best manner. And also, another word that Miloš mentioned and also was mentioned yesterday is building an ecosystem. To build an ecosystem, we need to be all together into this, not just investors, but also the government, the municipality. We have a very good communication with the municipality of Bar, and also we have a very good communication with all the communities around us. So every citizen, every real estate owner around Maljevic has my phone number. So they can call me. If they see a tree burning, they will call me. That's what we want to build, a trust with the community, with the government, and I hope that we will continue.
No, it's a very, I think you are very much right when you say that it has to be, it's a tango between government and private sectors. It cannot be just one-man show. Now, you were intriguing me with the Sveti Stefan reopening with Amman now. So I think, considering that Miloš is somehow, someone who is kind of inside and knows the materiality of the project and what's happening, can you just give us a little bit of taste of how that reopening will look like, considering that, to be frank, Sveti Stefan with Amman was a bit of maybe the first starting point of emerging as a destination in Montenegro in terms of international visitor, international media, etc. So if you can give us a little bit of insights of what's happening and how do you see all that journey, like, closing, reopening? Do you think it's now reopened to be, open always? Or it's a tough question?
I really hope, and I'm very happy that we finally reached the agreement. It took a very long time, and it was a very difficult process. Even though the starting point of misunderstanding and dispute is so awkward that is hardly to explain. And when I speak with people, I'm trying to explain what is the real issue, what was the real issue there. They simply can't believe. And I believe that many people here doesn't know what was the real issue. So we had one incident in 2021 where some locals, but accompanied with at that time mayor of Budva, they destroyed the fence and entered in the beach. So at that time, Amman decided to close the operations because they cannot guarantee the safety and the privacy to the guests. And probably if we make the survey here, 90% of people will say that we started arbitration at that time. But this is not true. Arbitration was started by the government, actually by one of the companies that are in majority owner of the government. So we had a long process, many tries to negotiate with all the governments from 2021 until now, and we finally made agreement. What was the most difficult during this process is to explain to government officials and to many others around how important this project is and how big brands are Sveti Stefan itself and Amman. And recently, when we finished the settlement and discussed with one of the negotiators from the government side, he said to me, I really didn't know how big Amman brand is, and I just noticed this now from the social networks. It's unbelievable how viral this is and how many people are commenting from all over the world. So that's what Snežana said earlier. Very often the government do not communicate properly the vision and the project itself to people. But not all blame goes to government. At least a half goes to media, which creates a narrative which blame big developers. Big developers only help Montenegro. I have never seen so far some big developers who failed in Montenegro or who create some kind of damage to Montenegro. So all big developers are only helping. So I'm very happy that we reached agreement for reopening. We are now in a big hurry to prepare everything and to reopen. And you had yesterday exclusivity also that we are bringing 2 more big brands on the project. So for this season we will have Namos restaurant there and Zuma, and it will be a unique place in the world, only one place in the world where you have 3 so big brands like Aman, Zuma and Namos in only 100 meters from each other. When you add on that one and only region, Porto Montenegro, Luštica, you have such a brands that Croatia with so bigger coastline doesn't have. So this is something, and we need to push it more.
Great, so that's a great news. Is there a fixed date of opening it operationally, or still you're discussing?
Villa Miloć will be open for the 20 years of independence of Montenegro. So on 21st of May, Villa Milić will be open. Island itself will be open in phases during the June. So for the July, it will be in full operations, while Namos and Zuma will come second half of May.
I see. So going to Slavica, I mean, there are 2 questions which I'm trying to combine. First is that when you do such kind of large-scale investments, how you basically make sure that sustainability is somehow rigorously managed and measured at the end of the day, because there's a lot of local government environmental impact. The second question, which is related with this, is that we were just mentioning now, when we have these big brands, and for them it's not the good news that they reopen, turn back, how you maintain that brand awareness and you preserve the brand, let's say, credibility, even that the project will be in 10 years to be developed fully. So have you, seen some challenges on the way, first from environmental perspective, secondly from marketing perspective, that you keep the same quality of, clientele, trying the price to be justifying the clientele coming, and then everybody, in the end of the day is guest satisfaction, and you see them coming repeatedly. So have you kind of thought that you have set up a system which in Luštica Bay has worked properly and should be replicated in other projects when it comes to sustainability assessment and to the brand awareness in particular?
So I think on our end, when it comes to sustainability perspective, it's really important to say that we are basically basing our business model and our project plan from day one and our vision on 690 hectare space, which will be only 10% developed. So if we look at the overall land and we look at how the footprint will look like, construction footprint will be less than 10%, totaling to 10% with infrastructure surrounding it. So we've got this vast green open space, which dictates really our brand positioning as well. We don't compete with what we're not. And staying true to that essence is super important for every brand. Trying to be something that you're not is always leading to failure. I think Luštica's early recognition was that we are very unique when it comes to the location and when it comes to vision, and staying true to that path in light of other luxury developments being around us wasn't easy, because luxury always comes with a little bit of compromise, and we had to be very respectful to the land that we are at, the master plan that dictated a certain authentic, genuine, and true to the land and its people architecture. I think our architectural model and our planning model was ultimately that foundation that led us to our sustainability commitment. but then also dictated to some extent our positioning as a home of healthy and active living in the Adriatic coast. It is something that I think really is instrumental, staying on the track of who you promised to be. This is what we are getting recognized for. This is what our community is telling us. This is what everyone who bought, came and visited our place is really genuinely believe in. And I think everyone who stayed on board with the development, and a lot of us have actually for a very long time, there's something that we truly embraced about that place and that we all work towards. So it's genuinely about caring for every little detail, focusing the maximum attention on what's happening today and how's that going to impact the future. It's extremely easy to fall in a trap when you're working for a big developer that's going to develop like 3,000 to 4,000 residential units. Is like volume, there's property in demand, but there's something called responsible growth, and there's something called commitment to the nature, to the space, to the obviously master plan and the government, which is also partly, a shareholder in Luštica development company. But genuinely and above all, what I really am proud of and what we've managed to preserve is a great, great relationship with the local community. And stepping away from local community is a mistake that many developers oftentimes do. They pull out of the community story and they go towards like what's outside, but really it is what's around us, and it's what's within this site is what matters the most.
Yes, so we are almost last 4 minutes, so I'll try to have the last round of question, which is going to be the same for everyone. Let me bring a little bit of context of this question. So what we just did supporting last year Albanian government, we did the development strategy for Albania, and one of the crucial issues have been always what is the best way to balance between the financial incentives to become, to have bankable projects. In the end of the day, if you go to investors, they'll say, well, what is the IRR? And how you basically bring together on the same table and ideally synergizing and having the same common interest. On one side, investors that want perhaps more residential, as we were saying, because the payback is 3, 4, 5 years. And then you have government on the other side that they say, well, you need to have sustainable tourism development because otherwise there's a limited land that we can develop. And thirdly is, as we were mentioning, local communities. Because again, it's not just that you need to have stakeholder engagement and you need to ask them before you start investment. The thing is, does tourism so far has been considered as one of the most external, one of the most capillary sectors of economy that actually brings what we call trickle downs, all the benefits, long-term employment, social, cohesion. So what would be that single kind of line that would actually get together all different aspects? The financial bankability of the project, which not always can be sustainable, but might be for financial issues or interest a bit shorter term, and that the government has a pressure from community that they need to develop within their interests and maybe getting their local community involved in that business. And thirdly, all of this, it's limited in space. And do you think that there's one kind of critical path that all three parties should work together? And what would be that one, very shortly? Maybe from Snežana.
Okay. So the word is definitely a balance. So as Miloš already said, we have a very restricted land that we should use well. So in order to not to develop empty cities during the year, we need to find a balance. And also the process of changing the law on tourism that defines mixed-use model and condo model must find a balance. And also, in order to get a good law on tourism and hospitality that defines the percentage of mixed-use model and also the condo model, there must be a dialogue between the government and the investors, but also this law is the mirror of the vision. So once we get a vision, it's a very long-term vision and line that must be involved in the law on tourism and hospitality, but also in the special planning law. And also we have now a special plan of Montenegro until 2040 that gave the basic lines of development. So the balance is important. If you don't want to have an empty city here in the best parts of Montenegro, you need to have a balance between mixed-use model and condo model. But also this balance must provide a bankable model. So the government is not an investor, and they don't have the data what is a bankable model. They can let's say, assume what could be a bankable model, but they are not from the industry, and only the people from the industry knows what in this moment is bankable project. So what are the clients? Finally, from Montenegro, we don't see in Montenegro anymore opportunistic capital that wants a fast gain and to leave. We have serious investors and with a long-term vision of the project that are not hurrying with the return. So we are patient. We don't want a fast return. We want a long-term return. We want to build an ecosystem. But for this, we need to have a dialogue. And I'm so happy to see that Luštica Bay and also Porto Montenegro, Porto Novi are becoming cities. That's what we need. We need a living space, but in order to get this and also to keep this, we need to have a dialogue. And I think it can be found.
Yes, very quickly, Miloš and Slavica, we are
Very
running out of time.
quickly, I will refer to the last sentence. Yes, Porto Montenegro and Porto Novi, Luštica, they became cities, but if you force them back then to create only hotels, it will never become cities, yes. And they will never come here. So, not here. They will never come anywhere. So investing only in hotels means 25 plus years of return on investment. Nobody is investing anymore in that. So that should be explained also to the people. So yes, it is nice we want hotels. Nice story, but it's not possible. So we have to combine hotels, but not simple condo models where you just register a building as a condo and sell apartments. You build hotels with service apartments. You connect the apartments to the hotel. They are in the renting pool. They have a service from the hotel. You have a year-round model that is working on. That is only model which is rentable, sustainable long-term.
Yeah, last word.
From my standpoint, so I think you never really separate or should separate micro and macro level. So the destination is going a certain way and we should be following that way, or we should try to kind of get aligned if we're not already. And I think when it came to these big investments, what we realized is we are going towards overcoming seasonality. We're going towards building something special. We're going towards maximizing the use of resources that we have in this land to the possibilities that we can sustainably really do. And for us as a developer, 7 hotels that are in the master plan are certainly there, but our priority was to actually develop a space that can be multifunctional, that can provide a living, that can provide an experience that took a lot of actually investment to happen on a long run in order to achieve those long-term results. My thing would be as a message for overall, let's say, macro level and Montenegro and developers of this caliber is work to make it happen. Focus on long-term, not short-term. Results always come. Yes, it's difficult. Yes, it may not be immediate, but whoever is looking for an immediate flash, that spark usually turns to fade very quickly. So we're in this game for a long run. I really hope that we will see a lot more interesting places like this evolving around true, unique visions of integrated spaces rather than just the hospitality and hotels. There is a power in brands, there is a power in making the kind of new accommodation everywhere, but that can also be, a pushback to making space available to all and enjoyable for all.
Thank you to all. It was a very insightful discussion, and of course, tourism never, is enough for 45 minutes. But I thank you all for your participation, for very remarkable insights, and I'm sure that we are on the right path. It's just a matter of, as everybody said, try to think a bit long shot rather than tomorrow. So thanks again.